I recently had a conversation with a friend of mine who was a compliance specialist, and he was saying about the need to read all the 483s from the different companies, even through different industries. He's in the drug industry, but he also read a lot of the citations from for medical devices also, and even a little bit of out of veterinary science drugs that people were making for animals. And I talked to him a little bit about text mining, and I tried to explain to him how easy it would be to do text mining on these citations. And so that's what I'm going to do today. Is I'm just going to take the original. If you look at the original citations, it's going to be here. I'm in some data sets here. And really, it's if you look at the Excel sheet, this is right off of FDA.gov. And then so this is for 2006. It has the different firm names, has the city, has the state and the country, when the inspection end date was, what center it's from, is it from drugs or food, or medical devices, or veterinarian sciences, and then you have the 21 CFR that was broken, and then you have the citation, the long description of the citation. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use a little program that developed in Jump. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in all those Excel sheets. And all that I'm doing is I'm just importing them all in. And really what you see here is each import is just taking those and making those into a jump data table with the firm name and the city and the state, just like we saw before, long description. And then so now I have a cell within the column that really talks about the description of what was written by the particular auditor. Now I have, from 2000, these are from 2006 all the way through 2012. So maybe what I want to do is I want to combine these in some way. And then so let me go ahead and do that now. Is what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all these citations, and I'll just call this my citations. Now I have a data set. And what I have is now I have all 139,332 of those citations. Let me get rid of a few things here. Clean myself up a little bit. So now with these citations is now I can start focusing in on particular centers. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to very quickly build a distribution of the different centers, and you see that this will break them out for me. This will tell me how many that I have within radiology health and human tissue, anything that I want, biologics, anything that I want is it's going to tell me how I have this laid out. And so maybe what I want to do is I'm going to focus just on devices. And it looks like that I have 27,594 of those. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just focus in on those and try to see if very quickly I can find out what are the main themes of those. So there's my 27,594. I got all those, and they have the different firm names and the different cities, inspection end date. What I'll probably do is just sort these by inspection end date. And so then I have that the very first one was done in 2005. And then I have all the way through 2012 when the inspection ended. Right. And now what I can do is instead of looking at all 27,594 of these, maybe what I can do is I can do a little text mining. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up a little text mining tool here. It's going to have the column of text data. Well, I know that's in the long description. At some point in the future, we can talk about the different ways, but I'm going to use something called a term frequency inverse document frequency. We could also use term frequency here that would talk about, what are the most relevant terms, but I can get that information off of everything that I have now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to build maybe a word cloud, and I'm going to have a little matrix here that'll kind of tell me if there are certain words that are appearing much more frequently than others, and what words are appearing with. Right? So that's all that I'm doing here. And as I said before, is there's a few certain things that I'm going to do. So I'm going to clean this up. So I'm going to do things like remove punctuation, any kind of alphanumeric term, non-alphanumeric term. I'm gonna get rid of those too. I'm going to remove any numbers. Stop words. What a stop word is there's a certain list of words that appear a lot, like the and a and that really don't give me too much relevant information. Right? So I'm going to go ahead and remove those, so I'm not spending any analysis computation time focusing on those words. Let me still think a little bit here. I'll also do something called stemming text, which what that does is if I have multiple words, like say that I have a word that's like computer and computers and computed, what I'm going to do is I'm going to call that all one word. I'm just going to call that compute. And really what I'm doing is I don't want to separate those words. I want to have them all together. Let's see. And away we go. First thing, maybe what I want to do is I'll just very quickly take a look at a word cloud. Right? And in the word cloud, it gives me a graphical representation of the big words that I'm seeing. And it looks like, you know, as you move from the center of the cloud out, that'll tell you your most frequent words. I did term frequency, inverse document frequency, which will give me a square cloud versus a round cloud. Here is it looks like that there's some words like you know, document and established procedure, adequate procedure, something about a control record. There's you know correct investigation, certain things that are appearing together, written audits. Right? And then so as I really look at, as I said before, is you can break out and try to find out what words are appearing together, not just frequently. Right? Is the frequent, you know, how frequently they're appearing. You can look at a data plot of that, and I'll show you that in just a second. What you have here is you have words that are appearing together in similar documents. And then so if I look in this direction here, is it looks like the words employee and personnel, fulfilling training, identifying training, needing training. It's something that we have a lot of audits on. It looks like that over here that I have, you know, probably a fail to establish adequate documentation or adequate procedures. It looks like that I have 3 words here appearing together. Let me just go ahead and pull those words out. There's one of them. There's 2 of them. There's 3 of them. So those 3 words seem to be appearing together. Corrective and preventive action. Something about a complete investigation. So I would think that, you know, a lot of people are getting written up by about not completing an investigation. Right? As I said before, I think this is a really good document to give me an understanding of how words are appearing together. Right? You can also look at, if I want to look at just plain term frequencies from here, quite easily as I could sort these, find out that established procedure is a big one, device documentation is a big one, adequate design, these are corrective, complaint, action. However, as I said before, is you know, preventive action appears a lot together, corrective. These don't give me an idea of what appears together as opposed to that 2D scatter plot. You can also do this is now that I have these words, what I can do is I can do clustering on them. And then so as I was alluding to earlier, is words are judged by the company they keep. And then so you'll see that if 2 words are highly correlated, what you're going to have is you're going to have those are words that are appearing together a lot in the same documents, right? And then so what I do is I have, you know, really word scores here, you know, scores. And as I'm looking down these, is I want to try to find out in multiple dimensions is if these 2 were related. That's what I saw in that 3D scatter plot. But now I can also use all the different dimensions, right? And with all these different dimensions, what I can do is I can cluster on these, right? So that's what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if there are certain words that cluster together, meaning do I have certain words that have similar scores in multiple dimensions, not just in two dimensions. And maybe what I'll do on this one is I'll just build very quickly. There's only 623 of the unique words. So what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and build 75 clusters. Let's see if we can find out any of these words that cluster together, meaning that they have similar scores, or what I call word scores. All right. Now I'm going to just subset this very quickly. Just take those two columns and see if any of those clusters, some kind of master reference. Looks like that these words right here cluster together. Failure involved, meet possibility. let's look at a few other ones as we move down. You should see that now what I did is I clustered these into 75. Incoming, reject, reject incoming. Those are words that appear together. Calibration equipment appear together. And here, if we have, I always try to look at, like, here's 3 words that appear together. Identified need training. Have you identified proper need training? Part software protocol. This probably has something to do with, Part 11 compliance. A consultant or contractor. Are you having the consultant or contractor do something that maybe they're not supposed to be doing? Are you monitoring certain parameters? How are you handling complaints? Right, and then so it doesn't surprise you that a lot of these words, management review. Are you holding a management review? That a lot of these words are appearing together. Reevaluate, rework. How do you handle those? Did I do a proper study? How about my quality system? Confirm some sort of output that may be of some study. So you see that, as I said before, is all you're trying to do here is you're trying to find words that appear together. We looked at it in 2-dimension, which gave us an awful lot of information of what are the general themes. And as I said, the personnel needing training, the failure to follow proper procedures. I really like this data set right here because getting back to the original question, whenever my friend who's a compliance representative said to me about reading all the different 483s, my point to him was you don't need to do that. What you could do is I have 27,594 of these. Is why couldn't I cluster the documents? Just like words are judged by the company that they keep, documents are judged by the company that they keep. So I would think that if documents had similar words, that they would have similar document scores, right? And then so I'm going to do the same thing. And this was really I showed you a few little different areas that you could look at. But this is really the main theme of what we were trying to do is maybe look and see if documents clustering together could give us an idea that we wouldn't have to read all 27,594 of these. What we could do is really focus on maybe taking a sample from each of the clusters. And so that's what I'm going to do. Just like I did with the words, is I'm going to cluster these documents. And, I'll just choose, say, 250 clusters. And a cluster is really going to provide me an opportunity to look at documents that have similar words, right? And then so I'm going to go ahead and cluster these documents. And once I get these clusters, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save them back to this data table. And then I'm going to subset it. I'm going to subset it and look at the CFR, look at the long description, and also look at the cluster, right? And then so all that it's doing now is it's trying to find out if I can group these into 250 really homogeneous groups, meaning that the groups are very similar, but that there's a difference between each of the groups or each of the clusters. I'm going to go ahead and save those clusters back. And as I said before, I'm going to look at the CFR, the long description, the cluster. Let's just take a look at those. See how well our clustering algorithm did here. So now I have the CFR, I have the long description, and what cluster that it was put in. See how it did. Well, it looks like, whenever I'm looking at cluster 1, it looks like that it's the same CFR, and it looks like it's the same wording. It has to do with corrective and preventive actions. Even if it does not have the exact same wording as it's about corrective and preventive actions, and it's about 21 CFR 820.100. And I can see that it does a really good job of any of the different clusters that I pick. There's cluster 43. There's cluster 74. It looks like it changes right here. So I see a change, and sure enough, I see a change in clusters. Cluster 105, 106. Okay. And then, so how can I really use this? Well, my original, research question that we were looking at is how is it that I could use something like this to really, get the same effect, but do it much more efficiently? Well, if I have this and I have, 250 clusters, and that's what I did, and I know that those clusters are very similar, much more similar than the difference between clusters. As I was saying before, is you see a change right there, and you see a change in the wording, right? This one down here is about design reviews. This one out here is about complaint investigations. What I can now do is I can further subset this. So I'm just taking a random sample of size 1 from each cluster. Now I have 250 of these to read. To read 250 of these, and I may want to do something, that's just a very simple example, but I may want to do something where I'm looking at the frequency of those. I am looking at, the frequency of the ones that are initially about, personal training. You could do that too. You could break that out even further.